What's the story with blue light? What is the story with this light diet?
Yeah, so I love that metaphor because it is essentially a diet. And just like a diet where there's certain things you should be adding in, there's also certain things you should be removing. So with red light, we're adding in the correct things. So now we're giving you the right food for that diet. And blue light on the other side is something that we're getting too much of. Let's call it seed oils.
Mm.
We're getting too much seed oils in our diet, and in our light diet, we tend to get too much blue light. Now, the problem with blue light is that we are basically getting overexposed to it in completely unnatural concentrations. In nature, it's completely normal to be exposed to blue light during the daytime and when it's also balanced out with red and infrared light. So there's two problems. One problem is the timing of it. So whereas in nature we would use blue light to tell our brains it's daytime and therefore, increase your cortisol, suppress your sleep hormones, melatonin, so that you would stay awake.
Mm.
That is something that would only happen during the day. Whereas with modern technology, we've now been able to recreate that process at nighttime. So at nighttime, anytime after sunset, when you're looking at an artificial screen or you've got overhead lighting, you're basically stimulating a response in your brain that it is still daytime. And that's one of the biggest reasons why people struggle with sleep quality is because they're constantly telling their brain that it's daytime. The other problem with it is just this excessive concentration. So even if blue light is natural during the daytime, what we find coming from the screens and overhead lighting is if you look at an LED, the type of light that comes from an LED, it's got an extremely high amount of blue light and very little red and near infrared light.
Hmm.
What they've basically done is they've optimized lighting so that it produces light really efficiently without too much electricity. And red and infrared light doesn't actually do a lot in terms of vision. So as a result, we've cut that out in trying to be smart. And what happens is this blue light toxicity basically stresses out our cells. Because with the red and infrared that we would get in nature, so the balancing of blue and red together, you would get somewhat of a healing effect at the same time. Whereas when we have this pure blue light from indoor artificial lighting, it stresses out the cells, it causes a lot of oxidative stress and can do a lot of damage to things like your eyes, can cause eye strain and headaches, and then also just leading to that blue light toxicity within the cells because it's just a completely unnatural exposure for us.
Mm. I like this term, the evolutionary mismatch, and it sounds like that's what you're describing, like the inappropriate dosages of light at the wrong times, coupled with the fact that we don't get any natural light at the same time. I think those statistics now look at the average person spends 90% of the time indoors. And to your point, they're probably now under efficient, smart LED lights that have this high intensity of light, very bright, right? Like 2 o'clock in the afternoon brightness, signaling that to your body at 8 p.m. at night is probably not smart from a melatonin perspective. But I like this idea of saying blue light toxicity because it means it's not just inconvenience wrecking your sleep, but it might actually be causing harm. Is it safe to say that blue light can be causing dysfunction at a cellular level? Like, is it actually damaging cells? Is it damaging just the eyes that we're seeing it through? Or is it damaging cells deeper? Is it causing a lot of mismatch? Like, what's the story at the cellular level there?
Well, here's something that I'm sure you've heard of before is that people get, skin melanomas. And what's quite common is people get skin melanomas on places where they aren't going outside and getting full exposure. So
Hmm.
blue light on your skin and within the dermis can also cause that oxidative stress, and that can also be linked, or it has been linked, to certain types of cancers as well. So absolutely, blue light in that high exposure definitely causes that stress and does have adverse effects, not just on the eyes. And at the same time, if you're messing up your circadian rhythm with the blue light, the circadian rhythm is obviously that internal clock that our body has that makes sure that everything is functioning properly. So at certain times of day, we should be focusing on digestion. Other
Hmm.
parts of the day, maybe our liver should be, detoxing our body. And the problem is when you've got this complete circadian mismatch, is these different processes don't line up properly, and that's obviously a recipe for disaster. It's almost like if you came to an intersection, there's robots that say certain lanes, like this lane can go right now, it's a green light for them, and then these cars would be stopping. When we have the circadian mismatch, we don't have that, symphony as you
Hmm.
would get at a traffic intersection, where now all these processes are trying to do things at the same time, or they switched off at the same time. And as a result, the body as a whole doesn't function optimally.
Hmm. That's super cool. And I like this kind of framing it as it's not just these acute things, but it can be these chronic things manifesting because the mismatch, the circadian mismatch is really playing out over the long haul. And therefore things aren't running optimally. And that's when we start running into problems. So we think, as we talk about light diet, specifically when we talk about blue light, people are kind of aware of blue light blockers, right? So is the solution as simple as, what if I just put like blue light blocking glasses over my eyes at night? But I've heard that it's not just the eyes that receive blue light. Like you said, it can also be received through the skin. There's photoreceptors on all parts of your body, right? So the blue light blocking glasses, I'd love to hear your take, like how helpful they are, but it's not the complete picture of eliminating blue light of just, putting some glasses on and Bob's your uncle, right?
Absolutely. So it's a very great point, because we used to believe it was only in the eyes. So you have melanopsin receptors, which basically detect this blue light. And we used to think it was just in the eyes, and blue blockers, would be the solution to fix that completely. But it is now shown that we also have these receptors in our skin. So if you're using blue blockers at nighttime to block this blue light and to improve your melatonin, you are doing, let's say, 70 to 80% of the job. You're doing it, you've taken a great step in the right direction. But another great thing to do is just cover up as much as you can, or use alternative lighting. When I first started, I was very much using the blue blockers and just carrying on with the rest of my nightlife as if it was the same. I was using the same artificial lighting. But I think, if you really want to take it a good step in the right direction, you want to replace a lot of the lighting in your home, whether that's you're using candles and you're going really old school. That's obviously the extreme version. Or you're using a red light therapy device. They can be used as lighting sources as well. You also do get red LED bulbs that are completely blue light free. There's certain things you can do with your cell phone and your laptop. There's apps like Iris that you can download, or Twilight. Those all help to reduce the source. So while blue blockers definitely are a step in the right direction, they shouldn't be the only thing that you do, because as you said, the eyes aren't the only receptors that detect this light and when it's time to wake up. And it makes complete sense, because if you think about it, if you were sleeping at nighttime, you want to be woken up naturally by light. And when your eyes are closed, that morning light that starts to light up the room should wake you up. So as a result, our bodies have evolved that capacity to detect light, not just through our eyes.
Yeah, that's super cool. I like, that maybe a lot of people get into the dietary space and the first supervillain that they take down is refined sugar, and they can remove refined sugar and gluten and grains, and that was me for a while, and it will really improve things. But there's still this hidden danger, because for a couple of years I was completely unaware of seed oils. So like the blue light blocking glasses is getting rid of the sugar, but the seed oils are still present, so you can get yourself a good way going, but there's still something there, and this is the next level now. And I like that you said using the red light as not as the therapy device that we'll discuss it as in a minute, but as a adjacent lighting in the room. This is something I've started to do in the evenings now when I'm hanging out with my wife. We're not doing red light therapy per se, where we're sitting in front of it and getting our red light dose. We're putting it on to light up this room and make it really warm and inviting and red, and it just has like this relaxing feel to it. And I've heard people say this in the past. I'm not sure if there's much truth to this claim, but it makes sense to me that the only light that doesn't disrupt sleep is the kind of reds and oranges, because they would be more reminiscent of the fire that we evolved to be around at night. So you've got reds and oranges with a sunrise and reds and oranges with a fire. So those don't seem to impact sleep and actually seem to be favorable to sleep. Is that a fair assessment?
That's absolutely true. So we've essentially developed a sleep immunity to red and infrared light, because it is the type of light that we would have been exposed to at any type of the day. So fire is a great source of red and infrared light. Heat in general, you would get exposed to infrared light if you're close to another human body, or even the floor. If the floor was, the ground was scorched with the sun all day, at nighttime, that's still going to be giving off infrared light. So when we were evolving, we obviously used the type of light that was changing throughout the day as our rhythm, or to set our internal clocks, and that was the blue light. Whereas the red and infrared light, because it's such a consistent type of light to be exposed to, our bodies realized essentially that that's not the type of light we should use to tell us what time of the day it is.
Hello friends, if you enjoyed that clip, then you can watch the entire thing by heading to this link over here, or you can find us wherever you find podcasts by searching Radical Health Radio. If there's value here, please hit that like button, let us know in a comment what your biggest takeaway was, and hit subscribe, support the show as we support you. We'll see you soon.